went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life, and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. This is Casey, and this is me, Colin, your narrator. I learned to love hiking as a passenger on my dad's back. Casey and I grew up exploring Vermont's Green Mountains together. Lured by the rugged wilderness of the West, we hop on a one-way flight to San Diego. Tomorrow, Casey and I will stand on the Mexico border and the southern terminus of the Pacific Crest Trail. We have decided to film this 2,668-mile journey in hopes of sharing the beauty of the wild land we will pass through. I'm daunted by the immensity of the task ahead. I know the statistics. Every spring, over 1,000 hikers begin the trek from the Mexico border, and only a few hundred make it to Canada before winter. Outside the border town of Campo, California, 30 feet away across a metal wall is Mexico. A monument marks the start of the path to Canada. Day 2 begins before the sun is above the horizon. The intensity of the borderland is palpable. Helicopter flybys, Homeland Security, warning signs, all sharply contrasting with the beauty of the desert. The sun sets as we gaze out on the Anza-Borrego Desert, where the trail will lead a vertical mile down to the desert floor. Long waterless stretches define the first days. We suffer under the relentless sun. Pretty hot. All life in this land is perfectly adapted except us. Taking a tip from the cougars and coyotes, we seek shade midday, resting to avoid the heat. Sun sets, air cools, walking without headlamps. The desert comes alive in the moonlight. Spellbound by stillness and beauty, we walk later and later each night. I become nocturnal like the animals, gliding past us in the chill air. Walk on silver sand, reflecting the full midnight moon. Cowboy camp under the diamond stars.
4:15 a.m. Just made camp along a 20-mile night hike.
The first week brings us 100 miles to Warner Springs. Hitchhike for the first time and catch a ride. We pick up the resupply package we have been waiting hungrily for. Eat. Rest tender feet. Set back out. The trail climbs 7,500 feet onto Mount San Jacinto. I revel in the oasis of pines and snowmelt creeks. This is the last stream for 20 miles. Soon we are descending from the mountain back to the hot desert floor.
We're dropping about 8,000 feet in about 15 miles.
Sun sets and the sprawl of Palm Springs glows 6,000 feet below. It's early and the sun's already burning. It's a little bit hot. Mile 200.
Woo! 200! Yeah!
The trail crosses under the frantic highway connecting Los Angeles and Palm Springs. My body grows stronger and mind relaxes into the expanse of our wild home. Fourth 20-mile day in a row, holding up pretty well. We are given trail names and come to know fellow hikers by these new identities. We wake to a cool, cloudy day. The chill rain falls steadily all day as we hike. Cold and soaked by the evening, we are ecstatic as we happen on the only shelter we've encountered so far on the trail. Sand and rock, lush oak and water, a land of contrast. Gentle curves of the natural world juxtapose right angles of industry in the desert. Up in the mountains right now, freeway right down below, 2 deer up on the top of the ridge. I'm growing accustomed to the gentle rhythm of the wild. The pace of normal life begins to appear absurd.
Starting to feel real good every day, getting in a rhythm. It's not much of a burden anymore to find water, it's just kind of part of the normal routine. Desert has a lot to offer. Not that dreaded, dry, barren place that I initially thought. Heading into town, got a few more miles till we get to Hiker Heaven, a trail angel's house.
Trail angels are generous individuals who help long-distance hikers on their journeys by providing free rides, lodging, and random acts of kindness.
Packing up about 32 days of food for our hike through the Sierras. I'm going to ship it all ahead to ourselves. I'm pretty much eating mashed potatoes and rice every day, and oats. Hopefully I won't get sick of it, but who knows.
Always strange to scramble to get everything done in town and then come back out here to all this peaceful space. The sun's going down, it's just a really great place to be right now. The trail meets the LA Aqueduct as it crosses the Mojave. We walk on top of the water supply of 3 million city dwellers. Hiking on the aqueduct, Edward Abbey's words ring in my ears. There's no shortage of water in the desert, but exactly the right amount. Perfect ratio of water to rock, water to sand. There's no lack of water here unless you try to establish a city where none should be. Hike late into the night. Wake to the wind shrieking through a forest of metal giants. Dwarfed by the immensity of the windmills for 3 days. Beaten relentlessly by wind and sand.
Just came upon my first rattlesnake encounter on the trail. Almost stepped on it about a foot away. It started rattling at me. Woo! That was pretty terrifying when that rattle gets going. Pretty brutal desert section. Pretty hot day, 14-mile stretch without water. You think you're through the hard part, and all of a sudden that comes up on you. Tough battle today. All I can do is keep on trekking though.
I'm only days away from the snowy Sierra. Beginning of a 33-mile dry stretch. Waterless miles push me to my limit. Water fixates body and mind. Relief. I drink deeply from Joshua Tree Spring. I just passed mile 700. I'm about 2 miles from Kennedy Meadows. It's considered where the desert section ends and the Sierras begin. Ready to get up into these big mountains.
Pretty excited right now, about half a mile outside of Kennedy Meadows, about the end of the high Sierras.
For 700 miles, I've thought of little but our desert home. We are overjoyed that this trail is finally leading us into this wildly different landscape. We have passed our first test and arrived at the gate of the Sierra Nevada mountains.
Go another mile to the campsite here, where there's also water. A day in right now, and already feeling the love of the Sierras. Walking along a stream, just the sound of flowing water is reassuring and peaceful. Being in this atmosphere is just uplifting. Headed up for Whitney in a couple days, tallest mountain in the continental US.
It's 3 a.m. and we're at Crabtree Meadows at the base of Mount Whitney. We're about to do a sunrise summit. Relaxing on the highest point in the United States, I imagine the whole country spreading out below me. 1,000 peaks stretching horizon to horizon.
Made it to the top of Forester Pass, did Whitney yesterday. We're up at 13,200 feet, highest point of the Pacific Crest Trail.
Through the Sierras, we cross 8 passes above 11,000 feet. On the north sides of the passes, the trail is buried in snow. A slip in the wrong spot can mean a 1,000-foot slide into the rocks below. Each step is slow and intentional on the steep snowfields. We've been up in the Sierra Nevada mountains for a week now. We've been climbing from about 10,000 feet up to around 13,000 feet, back up and down, up and down. Feels like I went back in time 1,000 years. It's just absolutely pristine. You walk around a corner and there's a brook with crystal clear water and a dozen golden trout in it. Come around another corner, there's a marmot sitting on a rock. This morning we just came up the trail and there's a deer 10 feet in front of us. It's been over a month and a half since we've been on the trail. Really getting used to living outside. It just feels good and I'm glad to be out here.
Starting to snow a little bit up here. First real precipitation up here in the Sierras. The guys stayed about a mile back in the trees, try and wait for the blowover, but it looks like I'm walking into the storm.
Combination of hail and lightning right now. So I'm trying to sit this thing out for a moment before we get over the ridge.
It's really snowing now. Thunder's getting real loud. Just going for it, trying to get down as fast as possible, find some cover in these trees. Got a river crossing here.
The river is frigid and swollen with runoff from the storm. Soaking and chilled to the bone, I'm nearly hypothermic when the rain begins to slow. Walked through the rain for a couple hours and then got here, set up camp, dried out a little bit, and life's good. We're gonna push on tomorrow. We got 65 miles to go till Tuolumne Meadows. My mind clears with the storm. I drift through this rugged land enveloped in its grace. Reflecting on John Muir's words, I begin to understand the depth of his connection to the Sierra. Everything is flowing, going somewhere, animals and so-called lifeless rocks as well as water. Thus the snow flows fast or slow in grand beauty, making glaciers and avalanches, the air and majestic floods carrying minerals, leaves, seeds, spores, with streams of music and fragrance, water streams carrying rocks, while the stars go streaming through space, pulsed on forever like blood, in nature's warm heart.
That was fun.
I wake to a buzzing in my ear, the mosquito alarm clock. 100 mosquitoes simultaneously suck blood and sanity. Winding our way around Lake Tahoe, the winds change and we sense an oncoming storm.
It's moving fast
We'll
though.
get hit by stuff over here if it starts storming.
This morning it's pouring out outside. We got like 30 miles to go. We heard there might be a storm coming in. We're hoping we missed it, but it's here. It might be a tough day, but we're gonna head out and try and get as far as we can.
This ridge is pretty gnarly, it's real windy.
Eventually we climbed up to a ridge where the wind was blowing, raining, and it was draining heat.
The storm rages for 3 days until it blows over the mountains. We have crossed the highest ranges of the Sierras. 600 miles of Northern California lie ahead to the Oregon border. More than 1,000 miles and 2 months into the journey, it is clear this is no vacation. This wild nomadic existence is my life. I wake at dawn and walk till dusk every day. We are a clan of dirtbags constantly pushing northward. I smile to think we have become the joyful wandering Dharma bums that Jack Kerouac wrote of as he walked through these same mountains. Dharma bums refusing to subscribe to the general demand that they consume production and therefore have to work for the privilege of consuming. I see a vision of a great rucksack revolution. Thousands or even millions of young Americans wandering around with rucksacks, going up to the mountains to pray, making children laugh and old men glad. Jack Kerouac.
It's rough sometimes, re-entering society after being in the woods for a while.
Through the pace of life on foot, I have come to know the quiet wisdom of the wild. Old priorities, expectations, and elusive goals seem so empty now. What has been of real lasting value in my life? Company of the ones I love, places that have sunk into my bones, a few enduring lessons I've learned along the way, this untethered freedom in the mountains. We've come 1,325 miles from the Mexican border, and we've got another 1,325 miles to go up to Canada. I'm so thankful. Still have half of this hike to go. Blown away by the trip so far and the last 2 months on the trail, and now it's just my life. Every night I sleep outside and every day I get up and hike, and just so happy.
Just entered the Hat Creek section, which is a 30-mile waterless section along the trail. There's still rattlesnakes up here on the mound. First one in a while. My amazing girlfriend Callie decided to join.
Hello!
I think they were happy to reunite. It was clear it wouldn't take Callie long to acclimate to life on trail. Mount Shasta stands at the entrance to the Cascade Range and signals that we have departed the Sierra Nevada and will soon reach Oregon. With a step, we enter a new state.
We made it! Yeah!
It's finally the day I arrive in Oregon. Had some really hard moments and felt a lot of pain, and also learned a lot about myself, and just can't believe all the things I've seen so far, and really appreciative that I've made it this far on the trip, and really excited to get up to Canada too. The dense smoke of distant wildfires defines my first days in Oregon. Huge thunderstorms brew in the afternoon and deliver a dangerous potion at night. Dry lightning and no rain. The trail passes through the charred remains of old fires. The dead forest haunts me, but among the blackened skeletons, hope springs from the resilient earth. For 7 days, my vision and lungs have been choked by the smoke, but as I reach the rim of Crater Lake, the wind shifts and I take a deep breath of fresh air. There's something that comes with arriving in this spectacular place on foot, a feeling of indescribable connection to the monumental beauty. I'm coming to understand what it means to travel at the speed of a human being, at this gentle, persistent pace, there's a celebration at every crest in the trail, every vista where I gaze back at where I have come from. Three Sisters Wilderness, a landscape of extremes. Glaciers blanket these mountains and their meltwater flows through the meadows and bubbles up everywhere out of the porous volcanic rock. Volcanic forces have shaped this land. Cinder cones, obsidian flows, lava flats, and three 10,000-foot peaks rising above the rolling green forest. An arrangement of sticks marks that our feet have carried us 2,000 miles from the Mexico border. The trail leads to Mount Hood, Oregon's highest peak. The power of this active volcano is humbling. Smoke rises from its summit, and rivers rage from its ancient glaciers. I descend into temperate rainforest and gaze back at Mount Hood's ice-capped north face. The trail follows the waterfalls of Eagle Creek as it cascades to the Columbia River far below.
Crossing into Washington right now.
The land is wet, rugged, and plentiful in its bounty. My hunger has grown insatiable, constantly gnawing at my stomach and mind.
About to eat burgers. I'm gonna buy a whole bunch of other food. Real food. It's about all I really want from society right now.
We dream of bacon and eggs. Pancakes have become our nirvana. It begins to sink in that this inconceivable journey is coming to an end. Each of us attempts to make sense of all we have experienced and discovered.
Part of the reason I'm out here is the desire to keep developing my understanding of who I am, to keep changing. I think there's a lot of stagnation going on in the world. There's a lot of wisdom that has been lost in our society. There's a lot of God in the wilderness.
Hiking the whole West Coast through all these different climates, from desert to the high Sierras and then the dense, wet North Cascades. It was something I couldn't have imagined, to have one trail to bring me the whole way and experience all these different climates where you can just get lost in the woods and this beautiful nature surrounding that just gives you so much energy and feels like you're a kid. And it's a special place. tough weather.
Woke up to rain. With all the rain, it's a little bit more challenging, but I'm still enjoying it. I'm still pretty happy to be out here.
Wet morning this morning. A thunderstorm came in last night. Trail's pretty waterlogged right now. It rained all night long. Got a river crossing. Rain's been coming down since last night, so it's flowing real good.
Rain is colder each day. Summer is ending within the month.
Raining again tonight, so under the tarp.
I wake up and the rain has stopped. All around us, towering peaks appear in the clearing mist. In the forest, the rain has yielded a miniature landscape of mushrooms.
With technology and labor-saving devices and all these things, we're complicating our lives in unnecessary ways for sometimes no real benefit. You have to go to work for 40, 50, whatever hours a week just to pay for your sandwich press and all this other stuff, But if you're living a little more simply on the trail, you get a window into what life could be like. Getting out in nature is important.
We're all racing winter out here. If it starts snowing on me tomorrow, my trip might be over. So I've got to boogie down to Canada.
It's our last night before the border. An all-night monsoon and thunderstorm.
Final morning here on the PCT, camped about 17 miles out.
The rain has cleared for a moment, and massive washouts have obliterated a mile section of trail. We cross a dozen steep gullies of eroded loose rock. It seems the trail is presenting us a final test. Lightning cracks above the ridge and hail begins to fall as we crest the final pass before the border.
Last day on trail, 7 miles to go till Canada, all downhill from here.
I just hiked 2,600 miles.
We hug each other, we kiss the monument, we fall silent. The journey is done and we don't know what to say, what to think, or what to do. There's no great realization, no epiphany, no feeling of bliss. Those moments rested in the life of the journey, not in its ending. Complete strangers offered countless rides,
Mama, thanks for the ride.
sodas, beers, meals, and random acts of kindness. On the trail, I made some of the most unlikely friends and met some of the most determined, unique, intelligent, and kindly people I've ever known. I hiked with Swiss, Germans, Canadians, Brits, Israelis, Scots, French, and New Zealanders.
I figured I'd run into you guys, man.
We laughed, grew bored, danced, swore, spit, slept under stars, woke wet and cold, but mostly just walked. I wore my shoes until they fell apart, and then wore through 4 more pairs. I felt crazy and exhausted at times, but somehow never once did I wake up and think, I don't want to hike today. I dropped out of society during the longest summer of my life. I performed a feat without any concrete value that most folks can't quite seem to grasp. Somehow with each day I fell more in love with the wild, with the journey, with humanity. And people must have seen this in me, for if they couldn't understand what drove me, they saw the grin on my face that neither rain nor boredom nor pain nor loneliness could seem to wipe away.
Mexico to Canada, hiking trail.
Gotta flip the shot over, or else it might be like really arty. I'm not really going for it, but the thing flipped and I wasn't about to stop. I was running. Sardy, man, Sardy! Alright, we'll see if that makes it in the edit. You know, it ain't a great thing to do for Team Lone Pine. Second of all,